When the call came from a law firm, I assumed it had something to do with my sister's estate. She'd passed away 3 weeks ago in what the police called a tragic but straightforward accident. Head-on collision, storm, back road, no alcohol, no foul play, just bad luck. I'd barely begun processing it when a calm, professional voice on the phone said, "Mr. Holloway, we're contacting you regarding property left behind by your sister, Sarah Holloway." I rubbed my eyes. We've already taken care of her things. Everything from her apartment is. This concerns a separate residence. She was leasing a property in Oakville. Her personal belongings remain there. You're listed as her next of kin. I blinked. Oakville. That was 2 hours from Boston. Sarah lived in Boston. She worked there, had friends there, had a whole life there. I'd never once heard her mention Oakville. The woman continued, "If you'd prefer, we can ship the items, but given the personal nature of what's there, many families choose to retrieve them in person." A few minutes later, an email came through. A neat little address in a town I'd never stepped foot in. My stomach twisted. Sarah never owned a second home. Never had reason to. At least, not that I knew of. I drove there the next morning. Alone.my. Wife offered to come, but something about the whole thing made me feel exposed, intruded upon. Like I was about to see a side of Sarah I wasn't meant to see. My mother didn't even speak anymore. Sarah's death had flattened her, left her gray and silent. She wouldn't have been able to handle this anyway. Oakville was small, charming, even. Old stone buildings, quiet streets, wind chimes jingling on porches. The house was tucked behind a hedge-lined driveway, modest and gray, with ivy curling around the railings. A wind spinner spun lazily by the mailbox. There was nothing eerie about it, until I stepped inside. The key they'd mailed worked. I opened the door and was hit with a scent of lavender and something faintly sweet. Cookies? Wax melts? I wasn't sure. What struck me immediately was the warmth. This wasn't some empty, forgotten rental. It felt lived in. The living room was cozy, decorated in warm tones. There were toys in a corner bin, soft plush animals, wooden puzzles. On the coffee table, a coloring book lay open. In the kitchen, drawings were pinned to the fridge. Childlike drawings. One of them had a stick figure woman with yellow hair and a bright pink dress. Next to her was a smaller stick figure labeled Mommy and Me, written in a child's hand. I felt my throat tighten. Mommy and Me. Sarah didn't have kids. She never wanted any. She'd told me that directly, more than once, that she wasn't wired for motherhood. So what was this? I wandered through the rest of the house like a ghost in someone else's dream. The master bedroom was clean but clearly used. Her perfume was on the dresser. A book lay face down on the nightstand. It was hers, the Goldfinch, with her tiny dog-eared corners and coffee stains. There were 2 more bedrooms. One was painted a soft, warm peach. A bed with a unicorn blanket sat in the center. Stuffed toys lined the windowsill. Crayon marks were scribbled faintly on the closet door. The last room had bunk beds, one side with pirate sheets, the other with Spider-Man. Boys. There were boys too? I stood there in silence, my heart thudding in my ears. The house didn't just belong to Sarah. It belonged to a family. Her family. I found the first real clue in the hallway closet. A locked box shoved behind cleaning supplies. I knew how Sarah thought. Knew she would have used something basic for a lock. I tried her birthday. Nothing. Then the date our father died. Click. Inside were documents, birth certificates, receipts, school enrollment forms. 3 names. Emma Holloway, age 7. Joshua Holloway, age 5. David Holloway, age 3. Holloway. Her last name. Not married, then. But the mother listed on each birth certificate was the same. Sarah Michelle Holloway. I stumbled backward and sat on the floor. My sister had 3 kids. A house. A life. And no one knew. I drove back in a daze. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My mind played out scenes like a broken film reel. Sarah laughing at Christmas dinner, claiming she was too busy for love. Sarah dodging questions about vacations or weekends. Her frequent work trips, that didn't make sense. The moments she'd hesitated when I asked about her future. How did I not see it? The next morning, I called the number listed on one of the school forms. Emma's school. Hi, I'm trying to reach the family of Emma Holloway, I said, voice trembling. There was a pause. Are you her uncle? I froze. Yes. She's been asking for someone. The voice said gently. They were taken into foster care after the accident. No one came forward. My skin went cold. What accident? The woman hesitated. Ms. Holloway died in a car crash 3 weeks ago. With a man. Presumed partner. The children weren't. In the car. They were at home. But, I stammered, wait. I'm her brother. I didn't even know they existed. I understand, she said. But we've been waiting for someone to claim them. Family. The social worker said, if no one steps in this week, they'll be moved permanently. I dropped the phone. Sarah didn't just hide a second life. She left behind 3 children. And now, they were my responsibility. When I finally managed to get inside Elena's apartment, I realized how little I actually knew her. The place was clean, sparsely decorated, with that classic modern aesthetic she always preferred. Glass coffee table, neutral tones, black and white prints on the wall. But something felt staged. Not fake, exactly, but curated, like a version of herself she wanted others to see. I started with her desk. Bills, old notebooks, random pens. The usual. But in one of the drawers, under some tax forms, I found a key taped to the inside wall. A small gold key, the kind you'd find for a locker or a safe. I pocketed it and moved on. The second drawer down was locked. I used a bobby pin from the bathroom to jimmy it open. Elena taught me that trick years ago, laughing as we practiced on our teenage diaries. The drawer creaked open to reveal a folder. Thick, crammed. Inside were photographs, printed emails, and notes, all addressed to a man named Gavin Pierce. And there were pictures. Dozens. Elena with a man I'd never seen before. And with children. 2 of them. A boy around 5, and a girl maybe 8. In the pictures, she looked happy. Radiantly happy. I just sat there. My breath caught in my throat. Elena didn't have kids. She'd always said she never wanted any. Too much responsibility, she'd shrug, sipping wine at family dinners. But here she was, grinning ear to ear as the boy clung to her leg. And the girl pressed a kiss to her cheek. I flipped through more papers. Love letters. Plans to meet. Notes about school events. Drawings from the kids that said things like, "We love you, Mommy." No. Noted I had to be wrong. The man, Gavin, wasn't. In any public record I could find. He didn't show up on her Facebook. No tagged photos. No mentions. She had kept this life completely off-grid. How long had this been going on? And why would she keep it a secret? I found her phone charger and plugged in her dead phone. When it powered on, I immediately looked for messages, but the inbox was almost empty. She must have wiped it. But in the Notes app, she hadn't been so careful. There were entries like, "Gavin's still nervous about the custody thing. Can't push yet. Emma's birthday is next week. Pick up the dollhouse. Told Lena I was at a conference. Need to make sure she doesn't visit unexpectedly. Lena, me. She was keeping me away intentionally. I wasn't just shocked. I was hurt. Deeply. This wasn't just privacy. It was active deception. I went back to the key. It had to mean something. I tore through the apartment for anything it might open. Closets, cabinets, even her car. Finally, behind some books on the shelf, I found a small metal box. The key clicked perfectly. Inside, passports. 2 of them. One for Elena Morales and one for Elena Pierce. She had taken the man's last name. Maybe even married him. I stood there holding both passports, trying to connect the dots. Then, I heard a knock at the door. 3 firm knocks. Not the kind neighbors make. I waited. It came again. 3. Exact. I froze. I wasn't supposed to be here. I hadn't told anyone I came. Whoever was on the other side knew. I crept to the peephole. A man. Late 40s. Clean cut. Wearing dark clothes. No delivery uniform. No clipboard. Just waiting. He knocked once more, then slid a note under the door and walked away without a word. I hesitated before picking it up. The paper was thick, high quality. The handwriting, elegant and sharp. "You're getting too close. Stop now, Lena. For your own good." My hands trembled. Whoever this was, they knew I'd found something, and they didn't want me to go any further, but I couldn't stop that MY's sister was living a double life. And she may have died for it. Asterisk. The note shook me. Not because it was threatening, though it was, but because it confirmed one thing. I wasn't imagining any of this. There was something dangerous about Elena's secret life that I didn't sleep that night. I lay on her couch, lights off, heart pounding at every sound. I kept the metal box with the passports beside me, as if somehow it would protect me. I stared at her phone, hoping a message would pop up and explain everything. Nothing did. By morning, I'd made a decision. I was going to find Gavin Pierce. I had photos. I had a name. Somewhere out there, he and the two kids were continuing their lives without Elena. Did they even know she was dead? I started digging. With a little online sleuthing and a reverse image search of one of the photos, Elena holding the little girl near a lake. I traced the location to a park near a small town called Crestbrook, about 2 hours away. There was a Gavin Pierce listed in the area. Married. No social media. Property. Records showed he owned a modest home on a quiet street that I took Elena's car and drove. The town looked like something out of a movie. Perfect sidewalks. Flags on porches. The kind of place where everyone knows each other and nothing bad ever happens. At least on the surface. I parked a few houses down from the address and watched from my window. It was them. Gavin stepped out to mow the lawn, and I recognized him instantly, even from a distance. His broad shoulders, his walk, the same man in Elena's photos. Minutes later, two kids came out to play in the front yard. A boy and a girl, Emma and Jamie. If I remembered the notes correctly. I sat frozen, watching this picture-perfect family unfold in real time. Then something else happened. A woman came outside. Tall, brunette, holding a coffee mug and waving to the neighbors. Not Elena. I blinked. Stared harder. No, she wasn't just a neighbor. She kissed Gavin when he came back up the driveway. The kids ran to her. She was wearing pajamas. She lived there. So if Elena was their mother. Who was this? I waited for them to go back inside, then pulled the car up the street, parked, got out and approached the house like someone delivering flyers. My heart was hammering. I didn't have a plan, just a need to understand. I knocked. Once, twice. The woman answered. She looked at me with polite confusion. Can I help you? I hesitated, then said, Hi. I'm looking for Gavin Pierce. I think he knew my sister. She tilted her head. Your sister? Elena Morales. Her face froze, just for a second, but I saw it. I think you should leave, she said, and started closing the door. Please, I said quickly. She died last week. I found pictures, letters. I think she was part of your family. The woman looked like I'd slapped her. Then she opened the door wider and stepped aside. Come in. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and lemon cleaner. Family portraits lined the walls. One of them showed Gavin, the woman, the kids, from a few years ago. My name's Harper, she said, sitting down opposite me in the living room. And yes, I know Elena, or knew her. She looked down. Her fingers twisted the hem of her sleeve. I always thought she'd be the one to show up here. Not you. What was she to you? I asked. To him. She gave a hollow laugh. Depends who you ask. To me? The woman who nearly tore my family apart. To Gavin? The one person who made him question everything. Then she told me the story. Apparently, Gavin and Elena met 6 years ago at a marketing conference. They hit it off instantly. Two charming, charismatic people in hotel bars. It was supposed to be a fling, but it didn't end. They started seeing each other in secret. Gavin told Elena he was in the middle of a divorce, that it was complicated. Elena believed him, or chose to. And then, she got pregnant. Harper paused at that part. Her eyes welled with tears she clearly didn't want me to see. She had Jamie first, she said. Gavin didn't tell me about him. He said he was working more because we had debt. I believed him. Then Emma came, and things started to unravel. He'd been juggling 2 families, 2 lives. When I found out, Harper continued. I gave him a choice, me or her. He chose Harper, but he still saw Elena and the kids, quietly, a few times a year. Harper claimed she allowed it because she didn't want the children to suffer. He'd go visit, sometimes overnight, and say it was work. I hated it, but I knew if I forced him to cut ties, I'd lose him completely. I stared at her, stunned. So Elena knew? She knew about me, yes, but I don't think she ever accepted it. She still hoped he'd leave. She called him every week, sent letters, sometimes showed up near his office. Then Harper said something that chilled me. Elena wasn't stable near the end. She talked about going public, about suing for full custody. She said if Gavin didn't finally choose her, she'd make him regret it. I didn't know what to say. That didn't sound like Elena. But maybe I didn't know her as well as I thought. Harper stood and walked to a cabinet. She pulled out an envelope. He wrote this. For you. For me. He knew you'd come. Said you would. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. Lena, if you're reading this, it means Elena is gone. And I'm sorry. I never meant for things to get this far. I loved your sister, truly, but I was weak. I thought I could live in both worlds without hurting anyone. But I hurt everyone. Elena wanted more than I could give. She deserved better. She was a great mother, even if she had to be one in the shadows. I kept her hidden because I was a coward. The night she died, she called me, said she couldn't do it anymore, said she wanted the kids to be hers and hers alone. I didn't know what she meant. I never saw her again. Please take care of Emma and Jamie if anything ever happens. They're your family too. Gavini looked up at Harper. What did he mean take care of them? Are they okay? She hesitated. They don't know. About her. We told them their mother was a family friend who passed away. They were young. They don't remember everything. And Gavin isn't here anymore. I stared. What? He disappeared. After the funeral. Left a note. No forwarding address. Just gone. After a long, restless night, I sat in my sister's living room the next morning, sipping cold coffee and staring at the stack of files and photos. They were scattered like puzzle pieces on the table, each holding a fragment of truth I still struggled to accept. It had been a week since I discovered that my sister Emily had a second family. A man named Charles, 2 children, Aiden and Lila, and a second home just 2 hours away from the life we thought she led. She'd hidden it for over a decade, seamlessly balancing 2 existences that I needed to meet them, not just for closure, but because something deeper was gnawing at me. There were details that didn't add up. Aiden's birth certificate listed Emily under a different last name, Harrington. Charles had known her as Emma. Even more bizarre, her occupation was different in their world. She was a freelance photographer, not a financial consultant like we knew her to be. I called Charles. When he picked up, there was a moment of silence after I introduced myself. I could hear him breathing. You're her sister, he finally said, his voice tight. I was wondering when you'd call. He gave me the address, hesitantly, like he wasn't sure he wanted me to come, but felt I had the right. I drove out the next day. Their house sat on a quiet cul-de-sac, picture perfect. White fencing, a swing in the front yard, wind chimes jingling softly in the breeze. The kind of place that screamed suburban peace. Yet all I could feel was dread. Charles opened the door before I rang the bell. He looked tired, like grief had aged him a decade in a week. Come in, he said. The inside of the house was filled with photos of Emily. With the kids. With him. Birthday parties. Vacations. Christmas mornings. Smiling. Laughing. Living a whole separate life. I walked slowly through the house, trying to take it all in. She wasn't pretending here. She was truly someone else. And yet, she still looked like my sister in those photos. She still had the same eyes, the same smile. Just another name. Another story. I found her journal, Charles said. It's not finished, but it explains some of it. He handed it to me. I read in silence. Page after page, Emily wrote about feeling split, like she was living 2 half-lives, neither one fully honest. About the thrill of starting over, then the crushing guilt of lying to everyone she loved. She had originally run into Charles during a trip, faked her name, Emma Harrington, because she was scared to be herself. But one date turned into many, then into a child. Then 2 she tried to walk away, tried to tell Charles the truth. But every time she got close, something stopped her. The fear of losing it all, the guilt, the web she'd spun, she wrote about. Me too. I wish I could tell her. She deserves to know. But how do you tell your sister you've been lying for 12 years? I cried reading that line. She loved you, Charles said. She talked about you all the time. Told the kids you were their aunt, but said you lived far away. She didn't want to lose either life. I whispered. He nodded. She didn't. Until now. Lila came down the stairs holding a drawing. Are you Annie Claire? I smiled, though it nearly broke me. Yeah, I am. She handed me the paper. It was a picture of Emily standing between 2 houses, holding hands with 2 sets of children. She said she had 2 hearts, Lila said softly. 1 for each home. That night, Charles and I talked until dawn. About what came next. About how to tell the kids the full truth. About how to mourn someone who was 2 people. When I left, I promised to visit again. Not just to keep Emily's memory alive, but because, as strange and heartbreaking as it was, these kids were my family too. Weeks passed, and as I stood in front of a memorial we made in the backyard of her second home, I finally spoke aloud what I'd been holding in my heart. She was complicated, but she loved fiercely, and she tried. Maybe that's all any of us can do at the end.